Morning. Welcome to a for real Metal Monday. Today on Let There Be Talk, episode number 557. And believe me, you do not get any more metal on this Monday than my guest, the man himself, the legend, the metal god, king of the vocals and songwriting, Mr. Rob Halford. Yep, you heard that right. Mr. Rob Halford is here today on the show, and that means holy shit. That's what that means. It's been an amazing couple weeks here, to say the least. AC/DC, Brian and Angus, and then 2 days later, Cliff Williams, and then 2 days later, Rob Halford. And I am just on another planet lately with my brain. It's been hard work, but fucking worth it. And thank you to all the new listeners. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and YouTube and spread the word. If you are new here, you have 556 episodes to dive into, so enjoy that. I've been trying to get Rob on, of course, since the day I started the podcast. I had Richie on a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago, and I was just pushing for it, hoping it happened. And I want to thank my buddy Rockline Greg for slipping me a little info on how to make this happen. So thank you, my man. And I want to thank Rob Halford from the bottom of my heart for not only doing this podcast, but for providing some of the greatest memories in my mind over the last 40 years. I first discovered Judas Priest, like a lot of you, from the incredible masterpiece Unleashed in the East. And from there, I never stopped listening to them. I still listen to Priest 2-3 times a week. I see Judas Priest every time they come through town. And anytime I can see Rob Halford sing, I am there. That guy is just art. You want to see metal vocals done to the highest standard? Go see this man live, or throw on something like Victim of Changes off of Unleashed in the East, or incredible Screaming for Vengeance, the actual song Screaming for Vengeance. Just listen to these vocals. Insane. Also, the things that he has gone through in his life and have come out on the other end stronger and happier makes me love him even more. He's got a brand new book out, Confess, and I highly recommend you read this. It's one of the most honest rock biographies I've ever read. He pulls no punches. He lays it all out there. And this guy is just fantastic. There's people out there that hate people for their race or religion or their sexuality. And I have no time for those people. If you are one of those people, if you are a homophobe or a racist, do yourself a favor and turn off this podcast. This is not a podcast for you. I love everyone out there, and I mean that. I cannot even imagine what it would be like to wake up each day fearing for your life that you may be beat up or killed or lose a job over your race or your sexuality or your choice of religion. It's a weird time in America right now. And all I can say is, get yourself some help. If you've got some deep down hate, get yourself some help, man. Oh, thank you, Rob. This episode is brought to you, El Cajon Harley. I'm giving them an old school shout out. El Cajon Harley was a fierce sponsor of the podcast for 2 years. I love these guys, and I just want to give them a shout out today. El Cajon Harley, the best Southern California Harley dealer on the planet. Yes. Give my man Greg Riley a call down there. Talk to him about buying a motorcycle. Fly in from anywhere around the world. They'll pick you up at the airport, buy that motorcycle, and ride it across America. Go out and live your dreams. What better time right now? We're all sitting around in our houses. Get on a motorcycle and go enjoy life. El Cajon Harley. Check out their website, their Instagram page. Call Greg Riley. Get yourself a motorcycle, or get yourself some motor clothes, or get your bike serviced. They do it all. They're busier than ever, thank God. And I love those guys. They are family. Also, my other great, Optical Connection.com. Optical-connection.com. My great eyewear sponsor in Studio City. They will ship anywhere. They have all the incredible brands. You see me wearing great eyewear on my Instagram. Get it at Optical Connections. Get yourself a discount with the code DEAN, DEAN. Call them, 818-766-4848. Look like a rock star immediately by getting some of the coolest sunglasses, or just your eyewear, whatever you need them for. Blocking sun or seeing. I need them to fucking see. Optical Connection has all the high-end, great eyewear. Before I start the interview, I do want to say thank you to all the Patreon people. I have tons of bonus episodes on my patreon.com/Dean Delray. And I've been doing live Zooms. This weekend we did one where I talked all about how the AC/DC interview happened. And some fantastic Delraisers. Incredible friends on the Patreon. Brian Coates, thank you. Gert, James Ray, Sven Isaacson, Jason Carlson, Bryant Cooper, and Patrick Rooney are the brand new Patreoners and part of the family. Thank you so much. Okay, don't forget the new podcast is about to launch. You can subscribe to it on Instagram. Go to my brand new Instagram for my podcast. I've named it. I've got the artwork up. It will be where you get all your handmade episodes now. It is Instagram, The Grail Podcast with Dean Delray. And holy smokes, thanks for the great response on the artwork. And that was done by my man who blew my mind, took my idea and went crazy. Brian Romero. Follow him on Instagram. This guy kills it. One of the greatest artists I've seen in the last 20 years. So The Grail with Dean Delray. Yep, new podcast. Check it out, The Grail. That will be starting in November. All right, let's stop bullshitting here. Let's get into it. Here he is, the metal god, talking about his new book, Confess. Get this right away. And we cover all kinds of other great stuff. I hope you love it. Have a great week. Candles lit. How are you?
Good, man. Another Metal Monday begins. Another week of metal confessing.
With the metal god himself. My God, I love you, man.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
I've been reading this book. It is unreal. I cannot put it down. It's I gotta say, it's the most honest, I would say, book I've read from a musician.
Well, that's really great words. I'm so happy to hear you say that. That's why we chose to call it Confess, because I've read autobiographies by musicians over the years, and they're all wonderful. They're all great expressions of incredible people. And I think that a lot of what you get is what you know. And that's not to be dismissive of some of my great friends that have written these wonderful books. And that was partly the reason why I decided to make this book now, because there's the inevitable unauthorized biography. But confess, yeah, when we started to even think about this before we took our first get-togethers, Ian Gittings, the confessor, as I now call him, when we got together, he said, where do you want to go on this journey of your life? And I said, well, I just want to do everything, man. I want to, it's not exactly spilling the beans, as the expression goes, but just because of the way I am as a person, I don't hold anything back. I think that's a great way to live life. Let your feelings and your emotions represent yourself. That's where we went and what we did. And I'm so pleased to hear you say that, Dean, that it has those qualities. That's good to know.
It really does. It's even when it opens up, and I'm a comedian, so I'm immediately laughing at some of this stuff out loud, like where you were wiping your ass with newspaper at your grandparents' house because they didn't believe in toilet paper. I'm reading this stuff, just going like, oh man, like, oh, it's just right away. I'm on board. I'm like, okay, this is going to be dark. It's going to be humorous, and it's going to be the truth. And I can't put it down. I'm almost done with it. And it's like I said, it's really amazing. And especially from somebody that I've been listening to and seeing for a zillion years. I first saw you guys on the Point Andrew tour.
Okay.
Oakland Coliseum. I think it was like May 22nd, 1981. Yeah. Savoy Brown opened and Ranger before they were called Night Ranger.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I remember that tour only because of the set. It was this red and yellow heavy metal set. We kind of had fun with it later and looked at it and go, this is like the inside of a Chinese restaurant. You know? Plus it was made, everything in that stage set was made of metal. And, you know, the crew, they just sweated their asses off bringing this stuff off the trucks and putting it on the stage and, you know, dismantling it every night. It was a real nightmare. These days, Priest, our wonderful crew, can get they roll it all on and it's up and running within minutes. It's so efficient in today's world. But back in the day, when we were still adventurous and having these ideas of what kind of stage set to build, that was the one that was created by the very early formative years of metal stage designers, you know. So yeah, I remember that. I remember that stage set and I remember that tour. But you've just mentioned two great bands, Savoy Brown, unbelievable, and then, as you say, Ranger, that went on to be Night Ranger. Great talented musicians.
I think the most amazing thing about that was, you know, I'm a freshman in high school. I'm here in this venue. I'm front row, pressed up on the railing, and here comes Solar Angels. And you extend the intro for a good long drama theme thing of just strobe lights going. The lighting rig comes down kind of like a helicopter. And then you guys come out from the boxes. And it's something I have never forgot in my life, ever.
See, this is wonderful. I think most bands strive to leave their fans with indelible memories, because I have one. That first band that I ever went to see, Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick and Titch, and I snuck into that nightclub in Wolverhampton when I was working at the Grand Theatre. I was barely 16 or so. And I remember I was in the back, the club was packed and it wasn't really a stage, but I remember that they also had kind of an intro tape and it was dark and then a bit of dry ice and fog. And then suddenly there were the guys standing in front of the stage wearing these really bright kind of glitter glam outfits. And it's true, those memories never leave you because they're so locked in. The visual memory is so locked into the music as well as the overall night.
I loved your look at that time too. It was funny when you eventually came out. I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, and I just figured that everybody knew you were gay because I didn't travel outside of the small world of the Bay Area. I wasn't in Memphis, Tennessee. I wasn't in Oklahoma. So I figured everybody looked like Pacino on Cruising. And so I just figured everybody always knew that. But that particular look on the Point Entry tour with the leather and then the denim vest cut off became a full Metallica look forever. James Hetfield with the leather jacket with the denim vest.
You know, it's wonderful that some of those heavy metal fashion statements correlate to some of us in our community, in the LGBT community, which is a wonderful, wonderful community of so much expression and self-determination and strength and power. And in part of our community is the leather community. It's always been an interesting story to tell because, of course, it was just by pure chance and circumstance that there was a little bit of a correlation there. It was never my intent to bring that side of my sexual identity onto the stage. As you know, Dean, and we've been saying forever, when we started off as a band, you've only got to look at some of those clips from the old Grey Whistle test. I'm wearing my sister's top that I nicked out of her closet.
It was cool too, though.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. But, you know, the music wasn't marrying up to, the music wasn't marrying up to the look, to the vibe, you know.
Right.
So that time, I've never really been able to pin it down when the actual, you say the point of entry to. So maybe that was it, when the leather look started to dominate and felt absolutely right, and that was it. You know, we nailed it. We got it down.
Well, you have the British Steel leather look. Of course, we know that with the cap and the whip and you know the hit parader photo with the girl and the Harley and stuff. But I'm talking that specific look. It was really interesting because that was. I'm way into fashion also as much as I love music. I think it's you know, sunglasses, fashion, and music. They all, you know, sunglasses and leather should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Elvis. The Elvis special.
Oh,
everybody should watch the Elvis special.
With the collar, you know.
Yeah, unbelievable.
And then you had the very, very short bleached hair, and you had become this amazing front man on that era. From then on, I was just blown away of what you were doing. It was incredible. And also it was really interesting to see as it would grow, the band was getting bigger and more money, and the shows were getting just unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's what we felt we had a responsibility to do, not only to ourselves, because we were getting this wonderful, never-ending, enduring love and support from our metal maniacs, our fans around the world. At the start of every tour, it's like, well, what do we do now? What do we do next? We don't want to replicate ourselves. So we began to do these extraordinary things that really at that time no one else was doing. You know, I think we were all hungry to explore every asset and facet of what heavy metal meant, and that included the fashion, obviously, but the larger than life experience dimension really comes into force when you see Priest on like the Painkiller tour.
Oh yeah.
Which is and the Turbo tour.
Yeah,
those are two really spectacular moments visually. The point of entry one. So yeah, we felt we had a commitment to ourselves, to our fans, to everybody really, to financially reinvest for these great experiences that we share together. Even now, you know, we've got this amazing 50th anniversary tour that's built and parked and probably gathering dust somewhere in a big warehouse in the UK. That's going to be another wonderful stage show. So yeah, it's fantastic, Dean, how through the 50 years of Priest we've been able to really have these amazing adventures and lay a platform and a base that's full of inspiration as much as anything else.
Yeah, it's pretty unreal to think about how you guys are still going, and it's better than ever. You know, I've seen the last few tours, and you just sound unreal. I'm just like this guy is nailing it. I mean, especially something like Painkiller or the Scream and Victim of Changes, or, you know, that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God.
It's funny. I was texting Andy Sneap last night. We were talking about some ideas, and he's kind of thrown the gauntlet down as a challenge for a certain vocal style that I haven't used in a while. Completely, a whole connected style, completely throughout an entire song that I haven't done for a while. And I've accepted the gauntlet challenge from Sneap. And for singers, man, it's a blast. You know, you can have so much fun with a voice. I've been blessed to have a voice that can do lots of different things, and so I'm always looking ahead. I'm always looking ahead to the metal future for other possibilities, and this is one that Andy and I talked about last night. But the essence of Priest, all of that, again, that conviction, that energy, that power that a band has, any band, it hasn't diminished, and I'm so happy that it hasn't. We haven't put our metal boots up yet. You know, we're not kind of on a beach somewhere. we're more like, you know, rummaging around the metal forge, trying to see what the next component can be that we can make, and that's thrilling. That's one of the many joys that Priest still has to offer.
I was I first get turned on to Priest from Unleashed in the East. I think it's like right around 1980. Somebody's playing it at a party, keg party, you know, and I'm hearing Exciter. I'm like, what is that? And the guy goes, oh, I'm Unleashed in the East. You got to have this. And I got it. And it just blew my mind. And it's funny to think about all the bands that I fell in love with. I got the live album first, and then you go back. So AC/DC, If You Want Blood, of course, Peter Frampton, Unleashed in the East, UFO, you know, these records. And when you listen to yours, I always wanted to ask you this question. When did the muscle start to happen as far as how radical the songs sound compared to the studio records? When you go to record Unleashed in the East, are you guys just out on the road, just tuning it up, hitting harder and harder?
Yeah, I think that's a natural way that you find your groove night after night. I think most bands will agree that the start of any tour is terribly exciting, and then there's some nervous energy, there's some settling that goes down. You know, it's like any big event, especially when you're sharing it with a lot of people. There's this real kind of massive explosion of like chaos and nebulous stuff floating around until you hit your groove. And so by the time, you know, we recorded Unleashed in the East, we were in a very comfortable, not secure. We were in a secure place, because this is what I love about bands. Firstly, you have to rely on each other. It's not just about you. I've always said Priest is not just about one person. It's what we all achieve collectively. So that's what I love about bands, that, you know, you get these guys and girls that are getting dressed and getting ready to go on stage, but you look at you look at Scott and you go, can't do the gig without this guy, you know. And then
Yeah.
look at Glenn, can't do the gig without this guy. You make each other the best that you can be, if you know what I mean by that, Dean.
Absolutely.
In terms of lifting you up and inspiring you. And I get that every night when I'm out with Priest, because I hear everything in my ear monitors. I hear absolutely everything, you know, and Ian will be throwing a thing in that maybe he hasn't done before. Although Ian is a very, very, you know, structured perfectionist, doesn't wander off too much, but occasionally he'll have a bit of fun. I go, God, that was great, you know. So all of that was in place when we did Unleashed in the East. Well, the music was. The voice wasn't.
Yeah.
The voice was jet lagged to fuck. I just had the shittiest time ever. I was awake all night, and I'd go on stage and I was like a dead dog. And for singers, vocal rest is the most important thing, you know. And even now, because, you know, I love to talk. So even now I have to really discipline myself during the day to keep the voice to its limit so I can deliver the goods on stage.
So you went in the studio and retracked the vocals. Yeah. That's what you're getting to. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, we listened and we tried to finagle some stuff, and I'm like, man, this ain't working, you know.
Yeah.
You put a bit of EQ here and a bit of splodge here, Alamizer, the great Tom Allam in the Alamizer, which is his secret sauce, Tom Allam's secret sauce. And nothing was working. And I said, guys, you know, I'm going to take the mic, take the wonderful, incredible machine, the SM58 is the sure hand mic. I'm going to go in the living room, Ringo's living room. I want you to press play, don't stop, play the entire show, and let me just sing my gig, which is what I did. Whoa. So the actual vocal performance that you hear, Dean, on Unleashed in the East, it's like the band is coming from I think it was Tokyo or somewhere in Japan, but I'm in Ringo's living room. It's just outside of London. Whoa. But this is the metal magic, you know. The live essence of a performance is there. There's no gimmicks. It's not rigged. It's just that I'm singing in a different time in a different place, you know. So the live experience is live. There was no edits. There was nothing was done. We got the whole thing down in one go, because that was the only way I felt it could be legitimized, you know. It wasn't like, oh, let me do a track and now go and have a sandwich and a cup of tea and come back and do another one. It was press play, record, we're doing the whole show. And that's how we got that live essence into Unleashed in the East from the vocals.
That's incredible, man. I just thought you were in the studio and they're like, let's just dub these vocals in, but you just grabbed the 58 in a living room and just sang it live, which is genius because you could make little mistakes here and there that would be real as hell.
Yeah. And there probably are some on there. I mean, I don't
hear them.
Well, that's it. You see, live rock and roll, and it's really cool that you're talking about this, Dean, as far as like finding bands, because the first thing you hear is a live performance. Some of those great records, live records, lead you as it led to you, and it's led me to different albums, because a live show has this song from this record, this song from that record, and it takes you on a journey.
The Unleashed in the East is the vocal performance is just unreal, and now they got the whole thing out, you know, so you get the whole show. Was that your first time in Japan as a band?
Well, that's a good question. God, was it, or was it the second time? May have been. Do you know, you've stumped me. You've stumped me, Dean. I know we were one of the first heavy metal bands to go and play in Japan. I know the Deep Purple had been there a few times.
Cheap Trick, Budokan.
Cheap Trick, but what a great record.
Smoking.
Oh my God. Yeah. So again, you look at some of that early footage, and this is before that full on leather look, you know.
Yeah.
That's a really cool question. Anyway, we did it in Japan because our label at the time, because originally, as I understand it, we were only going to make the record for for Sony Japan, Sony CBS Columbia Japan, whatever it was called. They wanted a live record because I think they'd had that success with other labels that had success with Cheap Trick and so forth. And so they said, we would really like you to think about making a live album. So we did, but then the label in New York and the UK said, this is a great idea. You know, you haven't done the live thing yet. And the Japanese experience is so cool and so on. So, you know, let's go for it.
I was reading the book, and there was something that really hit me in there that I could relate to so much. And it was, once you say, you know, you're working in the theater, you wanted to be an actor for a little bit, but then you start to go see live music. The Beatles are out there. You're into the White Album and Sgt. Pepper's, but then here comes Zeppelin and Ian Gillan and all this. And so you start going out and seeing live shows. And 18, 19, 20, 21 years old is like when I was full force in these shows. And there's something about that it is a rock and roll college that you learn everything from these shows. Oh, the moves, oh, the amplifiers, the drum kits, the lighting, everything about it you start to learn, and it's unreal what you learn from all that stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You never stop learning. You never stop learning. I think once you stop learning, you're cutting off all of these opportunities. It's like we still use producers. We still use producers because we know that someone from the outside looking in has a better grasp, a better kind of understanding that you probably aren't aware of yourself, you know. And so that whole business of learning, no matter what in life, once you think you know it all, what a shame that is. What a shame that is, you know. So yeah, the opportunities are endless, and you need to understand that. Otherwise, you're missing possibly some of your greatest moments that are yet to come.
Yeah, especially these memories too of stuff like you went to the Isle of Wight. You saw Hendrix and the Who.
Yeah.
And then you said we didn't have a hotel or nothing. We just slept on the ground. And I was like, boom, US Festival 1983 for me, the road trip. You know, my mom rents a small motor home, and me and three buddies roll out to the desert, and we watch one of the greatest days of metal in the entire history of metal. And I never forgot that. And I was thinking about, well, you know, while you were there on the stage at the US Festival, you were probably using some longtime Hendrix and the Who kind of knowledge, looking out on the 500,000 people.
Well, the first thing you need to understand when you're playing a big stage is that a big festival like that is that there are cameras with the screens and everything. So this might sound mad, but you have to try and look at 250,000 plus people, and you have to try and look at everybody like you're just looking at you. You know, it's like when I saw the Queen when I was a kid, with thousands of people, and when she waved, she was waving at me. You know, that's a very important thing to remember when you're playing these large festivals, because those cameras get right in your face, you know. So everybody at the back, hopefully, can get a real close look. It's a great part of a festival experience. I think they had something like that at the Isle of Wight. It was very, very primitive.
Yeah.
Was very primitive, but you had luxury, Dean. You had a motorhome. I just had an old coat, and I was lying in a field in the mud and the piss and the beer bottles, and I was trying to get a 20-minute sleep.
Yeah.
Because the music pretty much went on all night. As I said, I know that Hendrix went on at like 4 o'clock in the morning or something. It was insane. And then it was in the summer. It still got chilly at night because it was on an island surrounded by the sea. But as he was finishing, the dawn was breaking, and the music was cranking up again. Amazing.
I had a an Aussie laminate backstage pass that I found at an Oakland show when Brad Gillis was in the band. And I brought it to the US Festival and rolled backstage. No one questioned me, sat in the bleachers as you were going on. You were 2 feet away from me. Yeah. You fucking walked. You did that walk by electric eye.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah,
what the fuck, there? I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. You walked right by me. You had the summer metal outfit,
yes,
cut off vest.
yes.
And I was like, look at this fucking guy's badass boots, his vest. And you open with electric eye, man. It's unreal.
And it was like, what was the weather like, Dean? It was like 120 or something. It was Devore, right? It was Devore as it is now. And oh man, the heat was just crippling. And we talked about how we were going to start the show, because we did think maybe we should start with the bike. We should just burst the bike out and start with Hellbent for Leather, which would have been a great opener. But I said, no, we've got to save that till the end. We've got to save that to the end. That's already become a signature. And you should always try and leave your fans with the best last memory as much as the first memory. So they said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm just going to stroll on. They're going to just stroll on. I said, yeah, I'm going to just start singing, and then I'm going to walk out while I'm singing. They'll look at, he's off again on one of his on metal mystery tours. But I love that. I love looking at that. Even though I hate watching myself on video, I can't start. I can barely look at myself for a couple of minutes, and I'm just over it, because I'm like, you're doing that wrong. You're standing there wrong. You're holding the mic. I'm so self-critical, but that was definitely one of the most monumental moments for metal, and it really blew the doors off as far as where that event took metal to a different level.
I often say it all the time. I've had a few people on that played it at Jakey Lee, and I believe that day, it was the day that the industry opened their eyes and they were like, oh, wow, just start signing bands. We look at this. This is unreal. Because, we had Bowie the next day and we had the Clash the day before, but this was still an underground music in 83. As much as, it was like some guys around the locker, us talking about seeing Def Leppard high and dry last night, or whatever, but it wasn't like that. And once it was like that, it was, the industry got a snapshot of, money, start grabbing it now.
Yeah, ka-ching. And, I'm not going to beat on the labels, because they did great things for us all.
Totally.
They did great things for us all. It's kind of sad now, because I was looking at some data graphs on Reddit the other night, the way that the industry has changed economically. And what I mean by that is, it's so difficult now for young bands to get an investment, because that's what you are. A label is basically a bank, and the bank gives the idea an investment and helps you grow and develop. And young bands don't get that anymore. I don't know how they're able to do it, and God bless them all, because they are succeeding in this new metal world of business. But yeah, that was definitely an eye opener, and you could feel the ripple effect, not just in the US, but everywhere in the world. There was this mad purge of like, sign every metal band in sight, which is great,
Yeah.
But it was definitely more than just a show. The US Festival was more than just a show.
Do you remember much about that? Was there a competitive feeling backstage, or was everybody just fired up? Because everybody brought an A game that day. Quiet Riot, they got thrown on last minute because Joe Walsh moved to the third day. They come out crushed. Motley Crue destroys with the Shout at the Devil outfits, and they're about to drop that next record. Here comes Ozzy, shaved head, Jakey Lee, wow, Priest, destroying it, Scorpions with the Jets. It was like, this thing was nuts, and then Van Halen coming out just doing the full party, loaded machine.
I so wished we could have hung around for the rest of that show.
Damn.
Because you probably heard, Dean, that it really was a little bit like a reincarnation of Woodstock in the metal sense, because all these, you know, cars everywhere. Yeah, there was hundreds of thousands of cars as we flew over. The helicopters flew the bands in, because you couldn't get to the site other than, you know, doing it that way. Otherwise, you'd be stuck in traffic. So again, it's another memory where we're all piled in a helicopter, just a short flight. But the first thing we see before we see the crowd, there's hundreds of thousands of cars. It's like the biggest parking lot in the world, you know. And then that natural amphitheater of Devore, and the humanity, it just blew your head off. And I'm sure every band felt that way, that flew in, because everybody flew in and flew out. So we flew out pretty much straight after our show, because we went to Spain the next day.
Whoa! Oh, to record the record.
Yeah, to make the next record. But with reference to your question, the A game thing, I think it, more than anything, it was for the fans. It was for the fans. We were just in awe of how many people were out there all day. God knows if you wanted to, you know, get a drink of water or a snack or use the bathroom, everybody just stayed there. It was this from when we flew in, did our show, they were still there. There were still people coming in as we left. Man, it was just an iconic day.
It had to be a rush in that helicopter leaving, just like, oh my God, what was that, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet, because you don't want it to end, something like that. You don't want it to end. Thankfully, we've still got the footage to watch. Oh, and God. The thrill for me is watching some of those incredible bands. But when the cameras, on the boom swing, the boom cams swing around and there's all these people going nuts, man, great memories.
I grew up, like I said, in the Bay Area, and I'm absolutely obsessed with Dan the Greens and Bill Graham and what he built out there. Basically, just these incredible concerts at Oakland Coliseum. You played the most iconic one to me. I'm just about 2 years too young to have seen the Zeppelin 77. I know everything about it. It was their last 2 shows in the States ever. We had the big fight backstage with Ken and Peter Grant and all that stuff. But you opened those shows, and you are really the only person I can talk to that played these gigs. What was that like?
It's another thing that's just more than the music. Like us festival was more than the music. And the big surprise for us was at the end of that massive slog. We'd been out on the road in America for months. We'd played every club, every dive bar, anywhere we could plug the amps in, we played it, man, because we knew that that's how we had to pay our dues. You got to pay your dues as a band. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are. Even now, you have to pay your dues. So we were ready to go home. You know, we were like, oh, at the end of the tour, we can't wait to get home and sleep in my own bed. And then we get a call that Robert Plant has said he wants Priest to open up for Zeppelin for 2 days at the Day on the Green in the Bay Area. And because we'd played San Francisco already, we loved San Francisco for everything that the good times and so forth. But it's like, oh my God, it's Led Zeppelin, you know, at the time, the biggest band in the world. They want us to play, you know, and look at the calendar, and it was about 2 weeks from the last show to the Zeppelin show. I've just thought of something, Dean. I don't know that we rehearsed before we took that 2-week break. I don't know that we even rehearsed, because we hardly got any money left. So we found this really crappy flea-bitten motel by the freeway. What's the freeway that goes to
the 580 right there?
Yeah, by the 580.
Yeah, like right there. They got the hotels by the airport, just
that's
the
right.
Shitty ones. Yeah. There's actually a swingers one there. Oh my God. It was famous for years. It was called like the Offshore or some fucking, and it was famous. Like whenever you drive by, they go, that's a swingers hotel.
Oh,
like
really?
You rent rooms and then you leave the door open. You know?
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, there you go. If only I'd have known. But anyway, you know, we'd got like enough to drop like, you know, $20 a room, 2 people to a room for us and the crew. So, and the crew, like, you know, 5 or 6 people to a room, sleeping on the floor in the bathroom and everything. But somebody found a picture, an amazing picture of Glenn trying to get some rays on a really beat up old sun lounger that's falling apart by a green swimming pool and all these trucks going past chain link fence. We were there for practically 2 weeks.
Oh my God, just waiting to do the gig.
Just waiting to do the gig, yeah. And I'll have to ask Glenn about this. I'm pretty sure we didn't have a chance to rehearse. We just went out and because we were played in. Obviously, we were played in. We'd had like months and months and months,
of course,
of work. But what a special day that was as well, because it was, to the best of my knowledge, one of the biggest shows that we'd done ever in America. Is it 80,000 people you can get in at that?
Yeah, it's I'm sure that's what he put in there. You know, they say 65,000, but there's no way. When you look at that aerial photo, it's all the way to the very top of the ballpark.
Yeah.
There's people at the very top, and they don't got a fence. Top. You could fall back and die.
It was 2 days, wasn't it, Dean?
It was 2 days. Yeah. Remember the stage was Stonehenge.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was. And again, you know, the memory of going on pretty early, so early that you know, some of the fog hadn't burned off yet. So I think I think the curfew was like 4 p.m. It was insane.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Yeah, in those
daytime
days.
shows.
Daytime shows. So we went on pretty early. I know we had breakfast before we did the gig. So we went on, and those people at the very top, those poor souls, they could hear us, but they couldn't see us until the sun was burning the fog off. And then we could see all this humanity. It was a full, you know, ground level, but then the fog was lifting. And it was, oh God, there's more people and more people and more people. And so that was just a really special moment. I saw Robert many years ago. Me and him went for a walk by the cut, the canals in the UK. We went and had lunch together, and I was saying, you know, I'll never forget that you gave us the opportunity to kind of have that special moment in the Bay Area.
Now, had he seen you? How did he know about Judas Priest?
To this day, must have heard a record, must have seen some footage.
Wow.
I think, again, it's just one of those things where it's local bands having each other's backs, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he heard of us in those very early rumblings that we were making in the local clubs. I'd see Robert propping up the bar in the George Hotel in Walsall, which is not there any longer. It used to be like a bit of a rock hangout, and he'd be propping up the bar having a pint. That was before Priest was even anywhere, you know. And then just a few years later, we're opening up for this amazing band. And then, of course, I've got the Jimmy Page stories, which, I mean, you and I can talk all day.
Yeah.
But that's really a sweet connection, especially that, you know, one of my first true understandings of stereo sound was when I was playing Whole Lot of Love, and I could hear Jimmy's guitar going, and my head was spinning. I was holding onto the bed, and oh my God, you know. So a real strong kind of music love affair with Zeppelin that still is with us today.
Were you hanging with them backstage, or were they in their own world because they were just so big?
Yeah, in their own world.
Yeah.
Didn't even see him come in. Saw some of the show. Just amazing, you know.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin, just incredible. But and Bill Graham was very gracious. We became really good friends with Bill. He's a very important part of rock and roll shows in America. There's a great book of his life.
It's great.
And how he talks about, you know, flipping things around and really helping bands and saying that, like, we shouldn't just be in it for us, you know, as promoters. We have an opportunity here to work with bands and make them successful. And it's a win-win. We all get something out of it, you know. He was a pioneer. Bill Graham was a pioneer.
He really was. He really was, man. The way he would just do it for bands backstage, just set it all up. And then the stages were pro, everything, the venues. He just made sure that everyone had a great time, and the bills were incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, he understood it. He knew he wasn't just in it for the business aspect. He loved music. He loved rock and roll. He made many great friends in rock and roll. And yeah, he went the extra mile, and other promoters in other parts of the country had to catch up, because you go, this is no Bill Graham show. This is not a Bill Graham production. There's no deli tray. Bill always gave you a deli tray, some water. None of the other promoters did that. He really looked after the bands, and that paid dividends, because when we went to California, he said to make sure they're all Bill Graham presents.
It's funny when you look at the Day in the Green. One thing that really always wanted to ask you, as far as footage, there's not really any good footage of Priest. There's none of Point of Entry. There's some bootleg 8mm on YouTube, and there's some bootleg footage of you at the Day in the Green. And they're really, a guy in the crowd with the camera and stuff, but there's no footage really of you guys until Screaming for Vengeance tour. Is there any in the can at all?
Not that I'm aware of. That we're always searching. We're always searching to find every item. I'm sure everybody that watches this podcast, Dean, because I know you have millions of people that love to watch listen to your shows. If anybody's got something, send it to the office in London, because those are treasures, aren't they? They're treasures. Now everybody's got one of these things.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. And I tell bands, even when you're jamming, just record everything. Stick a phone up or stick a GoPro. Just leave it on. Just leave it on, and make sure that disc or whatever is somewhere safe, because you never know how important that is going to be in telling your story.
Oh, totally. So if I could see that Point of Entry tour right now, or the opening for Zeppelin, or the Unleashed in the East show, it would just, these, I mean, when you watch the Whistle Stop and stuff, that's killer to see the progression of Judas Priest, the outfits, the brutality of how they, by the time that you get to Defenders of the Faith, it's just cut your head off, radical. To see that, progress would be amazing.
You've just jogged a memory. There is some footage of the Reading Festival of Priest. I saw that last year. It's really funny, because some guy did it on a 8mm camera. So we're like sped up the way we're moving around the stage,
Yeah.
And that, I believe, that was the first ever festival we played in the UK, and the Reading Festival was pretty powerful, because it brought all the world press in to see all of these different bands, and so there is footage of that, and I believe that it's not a lot of footage, but you can see us all in our stuff. I'm wearing like an outfit that's on the back of the Sad Wings of Destiny album.
Oh yeah.
The back of the Sad Wings of Destiny album, I'm standing in the drum riser, and I've got like a mirrored microphone stand, which I made myself.
Yeah.
Some glue and some stick-on mirrors, because I knew about mirror balls, and I thought this would be great if I did this it was like do-it-yourself days. So I bought a broom handle, a broom pole, right? And then I bought some of these stick-on mirrors, and then I glued it all on, and I used that for that tour, and for that picture. I think we opened up for Motorhead at that show in Birmingham, and I had the worst alcohol poisoning in my life after that show. It was a 3-day recovery event, because it's Motorhead, right? And so all of these memories, like you say, Dean, especially the ones that move, they're really important to collect and to keep, because they're invaluable.
Well, it's funny that I was reading your book, and these stories are great. And one of the crazy things that I remember seeing years ago on Behind the Music was I had no idea that you were blackout drunk for years on these live shows. And I was like, this guy was delivering some of the most incredible performances of all metal history. I mean, I've seen them all, and not once did I ever even think that you even partied. It was amazing how you could keep that together. I never looked at you and went, this guy's on coke or booze. You know, you see bands and you know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're having bad nights. And I sang for 25 years. So I know that when you drink a lot of booze, you think you're in tune, you think you're in key, but you get winded, your vocal cords dry up from alcohol, and you sing like shit, but you never ever sang like shit. It was nuts.
Well, thank you for that. I have vague kind of murky memories where I felt like I sang like shit. So you must have seen me on some good nights, because it's true. It's true. Music should be played in its purest, uncluttered sense, because then it's at its most honest and real. And I love rock and roll for all of its excess and everything. And I think there's nothing more disrespectful than to give a shitty show to your fans who've paid good money and you're just standing up and falling down drunk. And I've been there on some occasions, mostly when I go behind the stack to get another shot of JD and a line of coke, and then stumble back out. You know, the magic of the theatre, the show must go on, even though, you know, whatever. But I've always felt that I talk about this part of myself in the book since I've been on this ongoing day-to-time life, that I don't know how I did that. There was something guiding me along the way. There was some power, we call it the higher power, that was getting me through all of those experiences. Because I would sometimes go on stage drunk. I mean, really drunk, you know. And I kind of look back with some shame at that, because I was in the wrong place. I was in the wrong place for lots of different reasons. You know, the sexual identity issue, which is the main one, and then the fact that booze and drugs were becoming a crutch and an addiction. So, yeah, you know, there, but what is it? There by the grace of God go I, and that's just a fact that I believe in.
I always wondered this about you. You were in the closet, you're out touring, and you must have had a field day when you were playing like New York, go to the meatpacking district, or San Fran, the Castro. Were you going out after shows like, okay, I'm in a city, I can go out? Were gay men's recognizing you at a bar? Like, what are you doing here? Because I know you talked about getting arrested at your George Michael's moment, and the police recognizing you, but were you being recognized in gay bars?
No, because I never went to any.
Oh, wow. You just didn't
I
go
never
out.
went to any. Never went to any, because I was so concerned and just did not want to have any kind of pushback or negativity thrown back to the band, just because of who I was and the band that I was in, and the status that brings, and the perception that brings, and the hostility at the times in certain decades towards people like me. I talk in detail about the fact that when you're trapped in that closet, you're living two lives, you know, and you can't really be free. You can't really find the way to have fun and truly be with your own crowd, because we all have our own crowd, you know. We go to a certain bar because it's our crowd, or a certain nightclub, it's our crowd, you know. There's nothing selfish about that. It's just the way we are as people. So no, that was it. So you pile that on with all the other stuff, you know, and I get to that really, really terrible place of like popping a pill and drinking a slugger JD and going into this nobody loves me phase, and before you know it, the pill bottle's empty and the JD bottle's empty, and I'm suddenly having an epiphany again. What was the epiphany that made me crawl on my hands and knees to my buddy's door and bang on the door and go, I think I've done something stupid, and they take me to hospital and pump my stomach. So all of that is just part of this story that I feel is important to talk about in Confess for lots of reasons. People say, why have you even bothered making a book? When we started this podcast together, I said that there'd be the inevitable unauthorized, and those parts of my life that were already a little bit public because I'd spoken about them, I didn't want them to be diluted or mixed up or have any false false displays put about them. So yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah. When you did come out, I was like, all right, this is great. This is great for other performers who are going to be like, if Rob can come out, I'm coming out,
We do that for each other. Even now, we just had National Coming Out Day on October the 11th, and I put a little thing on my socials saying, just know that you're not alone, and that we're all together, and let's kick the door down, because you don't do that to yourself. It's your life. You live it on your terms. You've got to find this place of self-love. You've got to find that balance and that harmony within yourself. Some people don't get the opportunity. I read a story just recently about a guy that was 92 years old and he finally decided to come out. Thank God he didn't take that to the grave with him. So I was going to say, for straight people, they don't understand the trauma that we go through, and that. But I find that a little bit difficult to talk out, because it makes me feel like I'm attacking, straight society. And once you go into attack mode, all shit starts to happen. It's all about understanding and trying to figure out why is that guy or girl, why can't they just be themselves? And it's difficult it's so difficult to explain. It really is such a difficult thing to explain. You have to go through the whole thing yourself, the whole psychological thing yourself, the physical thing. If you're changing, you can't explain it, and really you shouldn't have to, because it's all about you. And that's not selfish. It's all about you. It's about finding what's best for you, and then once you've found that part of you that you deserve to be who you are, born this way, then you can take care of the questions and the debates about why this and how come that and yada yada yada. But and that side of who we are is still it's not right yet. The equality is not right. And I read these comments on my social media. Oh, he's ramming the gay thing down our throats again. Well, no, I'm not, dude, or dudette. I'm not, because until we're all on the same page, and still we're all level, and until we've got equality, and until you stop beating people up like me, and until you stop saying shitty, horrible things about people like me, until you stop throwing people off me like buildings in parts of the world and hanging people like me, I will not shut the fuck up, man. It's my duty now. I'm not an activist. I never will be, because I think there's people that are far more articulate than I am in putting these messages across. But what I do now, as I'm an older guy, I'm a very pissed off old gay,
Yeah.
So I'm like the drunk uncle that's not drunk, but has something to fucking to listen to me. If I was blah blah blah, yeah, I'm all that, and I'm not going to be stopped.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm glad this book is out too. I want to talk about this run here of of Point of Entry, Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders with Tom. You're in Ibiza recording these records. What a chemistry and magic that time is of the band, and especially for Screaming for Vengeance. When you were recording Screaming, did you have any idea how massive this record was? I mean, sound wise, song wise, riff wise, art wise, everything.
I don't think any band knows, Dean. You're just going through these wonderful opportunities again. You know, the label wants us to make another record. We want to make another record. Our fans want another record. You know, all of that is driving you. You really have no clue. It's like the new Priest record that we're making now. We have no idea what the end experience will be. We feel that we know what we need to do, but as far as what's actually going to happen, it's amazing. It's incredible, and that's how it was for us when we went to make Screaming for Vengeance. Call it ducks in a row. All the things are in the right place. The stars are aligned. Who knows? I don't know. Tom's amazing production, just the location, just the whole place of where you are at that particular moment in your career as a band. It all comes into play because Dean, just think of the bands that have had the great opportunity to have a long life. There are certain records that push forward a little bit more than others for various reasons. Screaming for Vengeance became this monster record in America because of another thing coming, to some extent.
Right.
That allowed people to investigate all of the other tracks and the rest of the album. And that was buried. That was buried on the B-side. We had no idea that stood a chance of anything, and then it becomes what it is. So Screaming for Vengeance has become one of those ones that push a little bit more than some of the others.
It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece, man. It's from top to bottom, the Hellion into Electric Eye. It's just a masterpiece. And then I think that when you get into Defenders and you get into Freewheel Burning, this is like semi thrash. It's got a thrash feel. Freewheel Burning is cooking, man.
The way of playing those guitars, where we wanted the guitars to sound really intense and fast, but we wanted them to have rhythm. And the only way you could get that was to play the guitar that way, which, I have great friends from the early roots of thrash metal, particularly in the Bay Area, and they will say songs like that or Exciter, that gave them the idea and the inspiration for putting together this song or that song for themselves. But again, you don't know. I mean, you can invent all of this stuff. You don't know what you're capable of until you try everything. And that try everything attitude and approach is really important. When you're in your band and somebody has, I've got an idea, but it might be a bit dumb. No, it's not dumb because we haven't heard it yet. Yeah. Don't be afraid to try everything in your own head, or your guitar or whatever. You think maybe I shouldn't show the rest of the band what I've got. Don't even think about that. Just throw it out. Even if it's not used, it could be inspiring to make something else happen. So this whole sense again of endless opportunities in your band. It's just like painting, or anything that you're making. It's malleable. It's just you can pull it and stretch it and make many, many things out of it. And that's how it was for us with Screaming for Vengeance. But I do love that album. I haven't listened to it in years.
Oh my God!
Because I can, I'm there talking about it. I'm there, and I know that the opening sequence through to the very end, it's just a really sweet record. Everything's right. Everything's in its proper place. And I think when if you're lucky enough to have all of those pieces dovetailing and connecting like a jigsaw puzzle, and the end picture is something very special.
What is your lyric writing process? Do you wait till the song is done, or do you write lyrics ahead of time?
Generally wait till they're done. The music is done, Dean. I'm there. I'm there from the get go. When we write, I'm there from the beginning. And as soon as the sounds are being agreed upon, the riffs and the chords and whatever, once they're being agreed upon, once the skeleton is getting some meat and bones on it, then I'm starting to think about where I might need to go with the word emphasis, and obviously, if it's a song that's got some speed and cracking power, then I know where I've got to go with the language. Something that's a ballad or something that's a little pulled back, I know where to go with the language. But I love that. I love that. It's a joy for me as not only a singer, but to be the lyricist for Priest. But we all chip in, I mean, everything is scrutinized. We scrutinize each other, everything that we do. And that's just because we love each other and we want the best out of each other, and we're always encouraging each other and supporting each other. You've got to do that in a band. You've got to do that in a band. Once you get a leader in a band, so shit can go down. You've got to have an equal love and respect. Everybody's as important as the next person.
What about vocal warm-ups for you? You warm up or warm down, or was it just always just natural?
No, I just go out and do it. I know my brain generally is trying to tell my voice what to do. So I know. And as I've been doing this now for 50 odd years, I really have to save my voice. I have to make sure that it's got the strength. Because as we were saying earlier, when you're drinking, that's the worst thing for your voice, especially when you're doing a show.
Yeah.
How the hell did I get through those shows? But yeah, as I've been using these pipes for 50 years, and I'm trying to get the most out of them. And I've had to make some adjustments. I wish I could sing Painkiller like I did in '91, but I can't, But I can have a good go. I can, give it a good thrashing, a good whack. But even now, after I've done Painkiller and I've finished a song on the stage and the crowd is roaring, I'm going, could have done better. That note wasn't quite there. That's just the way we push ourselves in this band. We just love to give the best that we possibly can.
Now, I'm a huge motorcycle guy. And, of course, one of the reasons I got into motorcycles was Easy Rider growing up, way into Dennis Hopper. And another reason would definitely be you and the Harley thing. It was great to read your history of bikes with the moped and then the BSA painted tank with the band logo on it and all that. Do you still ride? And let's talk a little bit about the bikes that were always out with you. Were they just one bike that was on tour, or did they have bikes delivered? What was going on with all this? You still ride?
Yeah, I can't ride anymore because since my back operation, you probably saw years ago, I had really, really difficulties and I had to have a back operation. That's made my back incredibly weak now.
Yeah.
It's just really difficult.
Same with me, bad neck.
Yeah, it sucks, man. It sucks. Growing old sucks.
Yeah.
But so I can't ride anymore. It's terrible because I used to love riding, especially here in the valley. Beautiful rides out in the desert. But that bike that we used for the longest time was the 81 Low Rider that Harley Davidson sold us for $1.
$1.
We had to have like a contractual agreement. And we used that bike for the longest time. And then it got chopped a little bit by some friends of mine. And grew the tanks and just all of the accoutrements, the skulls and all that kind of cool stuff you can put on a bike. We used that up until just a few years ago, and now we have another Harley that we use, a Softail, I think it is. It is a Softail that we've got emblazoned with the firepower stuff. And that'll get a new lick of paint when we decide on what the next album is going to be called on the artwork. That's the bike that you can sit on at front of the show and take a pic and throw some money in a bucket for Glenn's foundation, for the Glenn Tipton Parkinson's Foundation. But the bike, the bike came out of Hellbent for Leather. There's a bike song that Glenn wrote, and it's just become one of the signature tunes of a Priest show, and it still is a, you know, the magic metal moment. We always put that bike out towards the end of the show because it's an important part. It's memory. It's memory. As soon as that bike starts roaring through the PA, you know, if you've been with us since whenever,
yeah,
it's a memory. It's re-triggering a memory, like a great photograph will do for you. So the bike is unique. It's special. I don't think any other band has used a bike like we have for not just the great moment on stage, but what it represents for the biking community, and you know, the attributes of it, like being loud and smelly and pissing people off. You know, no pipes on it. You know, no exhaust. You know, making noises from hell. So it's just a beautiful part of the picture that makes up Judas Priest.
And there's fantastic riding out. You're in Phoenix still, right?
Yeah, I'm still in Phoenix. I would like to get home, but man, I'm just not going to risk it. They're saying now that it's safe to fly in planes, and I don't know there is such a thing as safe, and particularly for people from my generation. It's just not worth it, man. It's not worth it. We all need to look after each other and be safe and do what we need to do. Listen to the experts and not the politicians. Just, you know, just be sensible. You know what the suggestions are. Follow the suggestions. I hardly ever go out. I've been like in my own pad since March.
Wow.
I rarely go out. Maybe once every couple of weeks, just to get some food in. You know, and I got the full-on PPE with the gloves and the mask, and throw my stuff in the washer when I get back. I'm just hardcore listening to the experts.
Yeah. I get it, man. I don't understand people that aren't.
Tough. It's tough. But then connected to that is this terrible chasm where we're not able to see each other. And not just friends and family and co-workers and stuff, but it's the bands. Our fans are like water to us, you know. We need to be with each other, that we sustain each other, and we're not able to do that right now. And it's really, really difficult. And everybody's trying to do different things like virtual concerts and stuff, and that's great. I personally can't connect with that kind of thing. So you do what you can with the social media. We're all just can't wait for 2021. Personally, I feel fairly confident that by the summer of 2021, we'll be okay. But this vaccine is just one tool. It's not the cure. It's just one tool, you know.
Right.
There's still going to have to be precautions and sensible, you know, ideas and suggestions to follow. This isn't going to be a miracle, folks. The vaccine isn't just going to be that's it, back to normal, because it ain't. We're still going to have to be very, very careful, you know. But yeah, miss it, Dean. I just miss being on the road. All of us in Priest are just like, oh God, this is how much longer? But it's a small price to pay for what could be a horrible ending, you know. We don't want to lose our fans. We don't want to lose members of bands. Some of my mates got COVID, like, you know, Chuck Billy and the guys, and so. It's scary. It's scary. So that side of it. Please God, let the light be coming to the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. I'm so glad you got Richie over there. I interviewed Richie on the show. I was in Nashville doing some comedy. He came out, then came to the hotel and did a great interview. What a rock and roll soul that man is, you know.
He's pure. He's absolutely pure. We knew that. Glenn and I knew it when we heard him jamming. He was upstairs in Glenn's studio jamming before we even walked in. He said, "Just go set your gear up and jam, and we'll come over." You know, half an hour. And we were just standing outside, like smiling. Guy, we got it. We got the guy.
Yeah.
And to watch how he has blossomed, to the place that he's at now, and the great. Great respect that he's getting from fellow guitar players.
Yeah.
Because he never puts that guitar down. He's always playing that guitar. You can tell the reason why he's so good is because he's always working, practicing, learning, showing stuff off. It's funny. I was Andy was texting me last night, and he goes, "Have you heard some of the stuff that Richie's doing for the new album yet?" I go, "I'm not interfering." He goes, "It's going to blow your mind." I go, "Really? Now I really want to hear it, you know." But I won't. I won't. But it's like Richie will go, "How's the lyrics coming along?" I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Then just wait. You know, I'm still I'm just like I'm getting the word here." So it's the same with Richie and his lead breaks. You know, I'm so eager, especially when Andy's like, "God, he's just flames coming out the speakers." So that's great. You need that. We need sustenance like that. We need to kind of have a boost and a lift, you know, to know that no matter what it is, that you know, nobody's giving up, nobody's giving in. That we all understand and appreciate that from this epidemic, pandemic side of things. There's a lot of great things happening.
You got a
Hello?
dog?
Hello? That's weird. I have a ghost in this house, and sometimes no, I really have a ghost here, and sometimes he'll just, you know.
That's funny, that ghost story in your book, like straight exorcist.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, I believe all that. Something happened to me the other day. I can't wait to put in the next book. It just blew my mind. It's just a stronger connectivity to where I feel I am in that side of life. Dean, this has been amazing. This has been amazing, man. I really had a blast, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the book and about everything in metal and you know, everything. It's been great.
It was a dream come true, man. I cannot thank you. I've seen you many, 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 many times. You are one of the all-time greatest, and I'm just so happy to be able to talk to you. And I love this book, and I can't wait to see you in person one day.
Yes, we will.
Yeah,
We'll come to my dressing room. We'll have a cup of tea. That's part of my
I love it.
ritual before the show and during the show. I'm drinking throat coat with hot lemon and honey and some ginger grounded into it.
Yeah,
For singers, it's just great to strip the you know, strip the crap that's on your vocal cords, and it really helps you get through a show. But man, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, and you look after yourself and everybody in your life. Be safe, be strong, stay metal, and I'll see you sometime on the road in 21.
I love you, Rob.
Love you too, man. See you later.
See ya.
Bye-bye. See ya. Bye.